Okay, so if you're watching this, there is a chance that you might be new to Palworld, or maybe you're not new to Palworld and are just looking for some tips that you may or may not know. But either way, this is the place. I've only put about 200 hours into the game, but I have found a lot of different things that might, or will be very useful to you in your journey to catch them all. Let's get into them. We're gonna start here with a very early game tip, and this is what I like to call, it's actually an exploit, but it is what I like to call the infinite sprint exploit. So you're gonna sprint for about 4 steps, hit your slide button, and then start sprinting again. The stamina you regenerate while sliding will outpace the stamina you spend while sprinting, allowing you to sprint forever at 89% of the speed of full sprinting. And here we have the very next tip, the sliding glide. You see a slope, sprint, slide, jump, and glide. And you get crazy momentum boosts and conservation of momentum. The bigger the slide is, the more you can save. So, for example, if we take this slope right here, this is where I am, we can make it all the way down to this syndicate thug camp in like 1 stamina bar. Yes, I do have a big parachute, but you'll still be able to make it most of the way with a normal parachute. Next tip I have is for baiting out attacks. So, let's say, I don't think this Tansy actually has one, but we can have like a mudshot. If we move this direction, the Tansy will read it with a mudshot, which is a very slow projectile, read me going this way, and attack in this direction. Okay, you're annoying. It'll read me going in that direction, and then as it attacks, you can swap your direction and dodge the attack. There are more attacks you can do this with, especially things like Tornado. Never be scared of Tornado. Never be scared of any tornado attack. They all are trash. Next tip, next general tip, food decay timers do not matter, and here's why. They refresh right then and there. So as long as you come in and hit this button every like 8 minutes or so, you won't have to worry about your food decaying. Additionally, on food, you're going to want good food sources in your PAL base, but you yourself and your team can live off of anything, and it won't really matter, especially if you're like me and don't actually use your pals that often for fighting things. Next tactic. Say you want to scale this mountain, and you don't have any flying PAL. You can't climb up that distance. You're gonna run all out of stamina. So instead, what you can do is just start building your way up. You can just kind of start building your way up, either to make it to another area that'll be higher up, and then you can have an easier time climbing up, or to just the absolute top of the structure. It's a pretty limited example of it, but you can see the concept of where this is going. And this one is a bit trickier to pull off, but is pretty reminiscent of the sliding glide. And this involves the use of the grappling hook, which is, if you've ever used it, very janky. So what you would do is aim it up at something, jump, attach onto it, cancel it, and start gliding. And if it goes correctly, you'll also be able to conserve your momentum. The grappling hook technique can be done with a simple structure as well if you want to build it out in the wild. It can be done with a simple structure like that. You sprint at this, attach to that, and just start gliding. The same goes for a sliding glide. You can do it with something as simple as this, or if you want to, you can add a second layer. because the longer the ramp is, the more speed you can pick up and the more gliding you can do. Next tip with the grappling hook. Say you're really over encumbered, like this. There are two ways to solve this. You can either have a POW that has an attack that goes a distance, like Dire Howl, Fanglope, Rush Ore are some examples, or you can use the grappling hook. And this is essentially what people have been using the grappling hook for in the game. It's too janky otherwise. So now let's get into certain stages of the game. Early game, the mid game, late game, and end game. And to define that, here's how we're going to do it. The early game, you're going to want stone is required. In the mid game, you're looking at ingots required. In late game, we're going to go ahead and say that we're going to need refined ingots to handle things, and then the end game will be POW metal. So you can see here, level 44 is end game, level 34 to 44 is mid game, is late game, 14 to 34 is mid game, and below 14 is early game. What should your first POW caught be? Well, in my opinion, there are only two options here. Either a Kativa over there, or a Lamball. You really do not need Chickapee as your very first POW in the game. Lamballs have handiwork and transporting, handiwork being the most effective one here for your early game, helping you get crafting recipes done, and a bunch of other things. But I'm very much more so impartial to Kativa because of Kativa's partner skill, Cat Helper, which increases your weight limit by 50 per Kativa, making it a very invaluable POW to have for your early game, because you're not going to have that much weight on you. What should your first mount be? In my opinion, there are also pretty much only two options. You could go for something very simple like a Rush Ore. These habitats here, you're most likely going to start on this island where I am in the plateau beginnings, and these are the areas where Rush Ore spawns. The Rush Ore saddle is unlocked at level 6 as soon as you get POW gear unlocked. But Rush Ore is incredibly slow. Even if you manage to find one with Swift, Runner, or Nimble, all stats that improve how fast Rush Ore can move. Even if you get any of those, he is still incredibly slow. In my opinion, your only two options here are Dire Howl, which spawns in these locations, and Eikthyr, which spawns in these locations. Dire Howl spawns, I think, level 6 minimum, and Eikthyr spawns at level 9 minimum. Now, Dire Howl saddle is at level 9, and the Eikthyr saddle is at level 12. Now, what makes these two so good? Dire Howl is the 6th fastest land-based mount in the game. And it is not beaten out in speed until around level 30. Eikthyr is slower, of course, but it has a double jump. Something that you won't get from a lot of mounts. Oh, and then, also just go for Nightwing. Nightwing is terrible. Nightwing is not a good mount, but it is definitely the easiest one you'll have access to. The easiest flyer you'll have access to. Next stop, base building. What you're really going to want in a base is a very large, flat terrain. You can go for things that'll make it so that raids are harder to get you, but in my opinion, that's really not important. So I'm gonna take you to one of my favorite starting base locations in the game. this location right here is one of my favorites. Here is the coordinates for it. This is one of my favorite locations to make a starting base. It's got resources around it. It's got an ore deposit over there. It's got lots of pallium deposits, trees, stone, large open terrain as well. But this should be an early game base at most. A spot with only one ore location, that is not viable at all in your mid-game. By the mid-game, you will be having a second base. And the name of the game there is Ore. The Desolate Church is by far the best place to get ore from. If it is not taken in your world, you should go for it. And with that, additionally, I'll go ahead and show you where to get the best mining pal for your base. In my opinion, there is no better pal to get for mining than a Dig Toys. Dig Toys are found at around level 23 in the small desert for your earliest location and most viable location to get. It's right here with level 3 mining and an ability that makes it mine even better. It's definitely going to be, you know, one of your best pals for mining. Unfortunately, there are no real close fast travel points. Fastest ones being Sealed Realm of the Ring Tyrant here, Investigator's Fork here, and Mount Floppy Summit over here. No fast travel point in the desert itself, which means you might want to put a base, your third base, in the desert here. There's another reason for that as well, as we'll see. This desert has a very good coal mining location, and coal is the name of your late game. Refined ingots require coal, and this spot right here has 8 coal deposits. If it's taken from you, then you can go around, mine some of them. You could actually carry the materials on you to create a base, and then just quickly create one after you mine it to teleport yourself back, and then dismantle said base. While we're here, you can absolutely cheese out certain bosses in very early stages of the game. Anubis being an example here. So if we were to fight Anubis, we're not going to because we don't have the time for that. This little ditch here is perfect. You send out your pal to fight him, maybe pull a few shots off, and when he's attacking, you just slide down the ditch and hop to the other side. Similar things can be done for bosses like the Mammorest. The last tip I have for you is this. When you're fighting bosses, at a certain point, it doesn't matter what gun you have, unless it's the rocket launcher. This is not the greatest example, because this single-shot rifle is still dealing over 100 damage, but at a certain point, in like the 90s, or like 40s, I mean, it just becomes not worth it to shoot the boss with actual bullets. Use a crossbow. It's great, does respectable damage at level 40 plus still against bosses, because they take like minus 10 or less damage from every single ranged attack in the game, except for the rocket launcher. And arrows are significantly easier to craft. And that is going to be all that I have to share for you guys. So I could definitely make more of these in the future. If you want tips for a certain other aspect of the game rather than just general progression, leave a comment and I will try my best to learn, research, and actually make a video on it. So that being said, I thank you all for watching, and of course, have a good day.